We all have this idea of what success is supposed to look like, right? Good grades, the right college, a clear path straight to the top. But what if the greatest talents are actually hidden, buried under a pile of bad report cards and just misunderstood behavior? Today we're going to look at a story that completely flips that script.
All right, just take a look at these buildings. They're innovative, they're complex, they're striking. This is the work of Hafiz Contractor, one of India's most celebrated architects. I mean, he is a master of his craft, a visionary who literally shapes skylines, the kind of person you just assume was a prodigy from day one.
But what if I told you that this was his score to get into architecture college? 50%. In a field where you usually need an 80 or 85% just to get your foot in the door, he barely scraped by. It's kind of wild.
And he says it himself, plain and simple. So this is the big question, isn't it? How does a student who, by every academic measure, was unqualified, become a leader in his field? How did that treasure within finally get unlocked? Well, this brings us to the central paradox of his early life. In a lot of ways, he was a successful failure, a student who looked like he was going absolutely nowhere, but was actually on the perfect path for his own unique genius to finally emerge. What's really fascinating here is that he never even chose architecture. His journey wasn't some well-laid plan. Nope. It was a chaotic, almost comical series of happy accidents.
Just look at this chain of events. First, he wanted to join the army, but his aunt literally tore up his admission letter. Okay, plan B, the police force. But his mother said, don't join the police force, just do your graduation. So he ends up at Jai Hind College, not because of his grades, but through influence. And it's right there that the final, most important accident happens.
That's right. He didn't find his calling because of some deep passion or a chat with a guidance counselor. He found it because he was terrible at languages. It's a bizarre setup for sure, but it was the key that opened the door. You really can't make this stuff up. He'd studied French for 7 years and admits he barely knew 7 words. So he decides to take German instead. Then, his German teacher died. The college told him, look, either you take French or you leave. And since he'd gotten in by influence, he didn't have any other options. So he's forced to learn French again, but this time from his cousin, who just so happened to be married to an architect. And that meant he had to go to the architect's office for his lessons.
So this is it. This is where everything changes. In that office, surrounded by all these drawings and designs, a moment happens that reveals a talent he never ever knew he had. It was a true window of opportunity, both literally and figuratively.
Just try to picture the scene. Here's Hafiz, a student who's only there to learn a few French phrases, and he sees a draftsman working on a highly technical drawing, and he, with zero training, has the nerve to say, hey, your drawing's wrong. That window you drew, it's not going to open.
The draftsman, of course, disagreed. I mean, who is this kid? So a bet was made. A teenager with no experience versus a professional. So who is right? Hafiz was right, and his cousin's husband, the architect, was stunned. He saw something right away. Some kind of innate understanding of space and mechanics. So he immediately gives him a test. Draw a few things, design a house. Hafiz does it instantly. The architect told him to drop everything and join architecture.
And this is the turnaround. The principal of the architecture college even warned him, look, if you don't do well on this entrance exam, you are not getting in. And Hafiz, the 50% student, got an A+. And his own words just illustrate this transformation perfectly. Once he was on the right path, the struggle was just over. He had found his element. He went from the bottom of the academic barrel to the very top, pretty much overnight. So the question becomes, where did this knowledge come from?
Well, the answer wasn't in any textbook. It was hidden in his childhood, in all the activities everyone else, and probably he himself, dismissed as just simple distractions or a waste of time.
As Hafiz himself reflects, his real education happened outside the classroom. The things he did just for fun were actually honing the exact skills he would need for his future profession.
Let's just consider this list of his so-called useless hobbies. He and a friend would have competitions designing forts and guns. When it rained, he wasn't just watching the water. He was thinking about building a dam, how to block the flow, how much it could hold. When a classmate lost a uniform button, he would skillfully carve a new one for them out of chalk. Each one of these activities was a lesson in design, engineering, problem-solving, and spatial thinking.
And this brings it all together so powerfully. The same mind that was figuring out how to dam a stream of rainwater was the very same mind that would one day conceive of buildings like this. The scale changed, of course, but the instinct, that core talent, it was always there.
And incredibly, someone actually saw it way back then. His second-grade teacher, Mrs. Gupta, saw through the poor grades and the distractions. She saw his sketches and made a prediction that was pretty much prophetic. Years later, after becoming a famous architect, he actually went back to thank her.
And so we come full circle. Hafiz's story ends with him redefining the very subject that caused him so much trouble in school. A subject he hated became the word he used to describe his own unique gift.
See, in school, mathematics was a total nightmare. He said he was very bad at it because he just wasn't interested. But in his work, he uses a totally different kind of math, an intuitive blend of arithmetic and just pure instinct.
And here's his new definition. For him, mathematics isn't just numbers on a page. It's the art of putting design, construction, psychology, and sociology together and making a sketch from all that. Think about that. It's combining everything, the client, the materials, the space, and pulling it all together into a single sketch. That, to him, is mathematics.
Ultimately, his story just shows that there are different kinds of intelligence. His street smarts, his hands-on learning through play and observation, that gave him a far deeper education for his life's work than academics alone ever could have.
And this leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. Hafiz Contractor's talent was nearly missed, just dismissed as a distraction. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other treasures are still within us, just waiting for the right accidental opportunity to be discovered?